The title of today's story is DM Has No Idea How to World Build by user Dextaurus. World building is arguably the most important thing a DM can do, because it sets up the stage, the theme, and the tone of the campaign. Think of it like writing a book, but your players help you write and edit the book as it goes along. The DM I had has no idea how to do that. Let's start with the most egregious examples. When we started, this was supposed to be a low to no magic setting, and thus the DM forbade us from playing casters of any kind. Except Reynold, who played the wizard, paladin, monk. But the DM told Reynold that the only magic he could use is light-based magic, and that he will look like a classic wizard, like Gandalf. This DM also changed it so wizards are a race of people rather than a playable class, and that it's physically impossible to play one unless you are born like that. However, in the very first session we had, he breaks that rule by having us chase down a sorcerer who was a part of one of the assassin's guilds, and later we started dealing with assassins who could magically alter their appearance. When my ranger reached 4th level and I got to start picking my spells and told the DM which one I'd selected, the DM said, "No, you don't get to cast magic. You'll have to take the non-caster variant." So, why can you throw level 10 sorcerers, level 15 casters, and creatures that can cast True Strike an infinite number of times until I'm unconscious because you can't hit me, but I can't call a wolf to my side to help us in battle? Or make a hawk my companion for a while? Let's talk about travel time. Oh boy, I love traveling for one in-game month to get to the nearest town, and having to roll random encounters each day. Boy, oh boy, is that fun. I shit you not, with horses moving at a regular pace, it would take us 1 month to get from the starting town to the next town over. RDM's justification? The world's that big. His exact words. I'm sorry, but no, that's not how distances work. If it takes that long to get from one place to another, no one would go anywhere. How would places get the supplies they need? If that's the case, then the people would have done one of two things. Either stayed put, or created faster means of travel. Just to give you an idea of how far 1 month of travel would be, that is essentially walking from Seattle in Washington to Los Angeles in California. So our DM expects us to not only spend 1 month of in-game time, which is a long time by Game World standards, on the road, but he also wants us rolling for random encounters every day and every night. This means the farther we get away, the longer and longer it will take to go anywhere with no means of getting there much quicker. Which brings us to random encounters. Let me hit you with some quick math. Our party has 4 people. Every day, each player rolls percentiles for their quarter of the day. The DM has it set up that if you roll under 50, you get an encounter. Whether it be combat or social is also determined by the DM. Over 50, you don't get one. So let's just call it a coin flip. The DM also has each of us roll every night for a random encounter. This carries on for every single day of travel. If you're with me so far, that means each player has to roll 2 encounters per day. At 4 players, with each making 2 rolls, that means there is a total 8 possible encounters in a single day. Multiply that by approximately 30. That means we could have a maximum of 240 encounters just getting from point A to point B. And it means we have a minimum of 2 to 3 encounters a day, which gives us an average of 75 encounters in a single month-long journey. Our DM rules that it's 13 encounters to a level up. This means we would gain approximately 5 level ups from dealing with these encounters. But I'm pretty sure these don't count towards our number of encounters to a level up. Our sessions are about 2 to 3 hours long. Each encounter takes about, let's say, 10 minutes to deal with, if it's not a combat encounter or a complex social encounter. That means it's 750 minutes, conservatively speaking, to deal with all those random encounters, or 12.5 hours, which means it takes us 6 sessions to complete all of these encounters, and they have zero impact on the world, plot, or characters of this game. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's bring up the gods of this world. Our DM has this weird obsession with animistic pantheons. In the first campaign I was in with him, he had 2 unicorns be the gods of the sun and the moon. In this one, there is a snake god, a cricket god, a spider god, a bat god, a wolf god, a bear god, a raven/crow god, a fish god of time, a god of trade, a god of darkness, a god of mushrooms/fungus, a god of slugs, a god of snails, a god of weed, a god of drinking, a god of sleeping, a god of clumsiness, and the gods of yin and yang, just to name a few, and these are all the ones that we know about. Apparently, all of those gods play a pivotal role in the plot. But that's not even the most asinine part of it all. Take the cleric's divine intervention in 5e and give that to everyone else. Now remove the aspect of percentiles actually meaning anything and replace it with a who rolls higher. If you win, that god now has to answer to you and will give you anything you want with little to no consequence. Oh, and you can do this an infinite number of times. So how's this supposed to be a grounded setting? I don't know about you, but that many gods interfering with the players and story doesn't sound very realistic to me. Let's talk plot while we're on it. Essentially, the world we're on is the only one in the entire multiverse that is still flat. There are 10 pillars that are holding the world aloft, and once they are knocked over, the world will become spherical and cause time to go forward as it's currently stagnating. And it's our goal to knock them down. However, there are several gods that want to keep the pillars up and will stop at nothing to do so. Again, how is this a realistic or grounded approach when this seems like typical high fantasy stuff? It seems like this DM wants to use a low fantasy setting with no understanding of how low fantasy works. Now we come to my personal favorite example of bullshit. During one of our sessions, we had a boss fight. It was this 3-headed snake that could just cast fireball at will. And by fireball, I mean a fire attack that it shoots from one of its heads at the party. Every time the DM tried to hit me, he couldn't beat my AC of 20. So what does the DM do? Well, he cheats. At the start of the snake's round, the DM said, he casts True Strike, that's a 37 to hit. It would only use that spell on me. Rinse and repeat until my character falls unconscious. Afterwards, the snake never used True Strike again, but every time I was on my feet, it could magically do it an infinite number of times. I told him it was straight up bullshit, but he just smiled and said the snake had it the entire time. If he had it the entire time, why did you use it only against me? And why didn't he run out of times he could cast it? In 3rd edition, True Strike is a 1st level spell. How can he reasonably cast a 1st level spell 10 times in a row? And these are just a few examples of how bad this DM is. You've likely already read some of my other stories, and the only reason I stuck around for as long as I did was in hopes of him actually getting better. But that's not the case.